29th, 2025, 12 Russian cruise missiles launched from the North Atlantic, skimming just 60 feet above the water at a speed of 600 mph, headed straight for an American base in England. Inside that base were more than $6 billion worth of America's most advanced stealth fighter jets and nearly 1,200 American servicemen, many of whom were fast asleep. What happened next was unlike anything we've seen in generations. Within 48 hours, American B-2 and B-21 stealth bombers soared through the polar night, dropping massive bunker-busting bombs that caused earthquakes 400 miles away. Entire underground arsenals disappeared, and fireballs as high as 1,200 feet lit up Russia's Arctic coast. Intelligence whispers that Russia has suffered heavy losses. But even as U.S. carrier strike groups steam north and defense alert levels rise to levels not seen in more than 60 years, all-out war somehow never comes. So how close were we to global catastrophe? And will America be forced to push even harder next time? Stick with us. This is the story every American needs to hear. At exactly 4:17 a.m. on June 29, 2025, 3 Russian Bore-class submarines, each over 24,000 tons, broke silence beneath the North Atlantic. Hidden under 1,000 feet of icy water, they executed a synchronized launch. Hatches burst open. In under 30 seconds, 12 caliber cruise missiles erupted from the waves, trailing columns of steam and fire. Rising only 20 meters above the ocean, the missiles leveled off instantly, accelerating to 600 mph. Each carried a 450-pound high-explosive warhead, programmed with independent strike coordinates to saturate defenses. They raced west to east, skimming so low that white caps fanned beneath their bodies. As the calibers neared Norwegian radar range, early warning stations picked up 12 fast-moving contacts, triggering the highest alert across NATO's northern grid. Yet with terrain-hugging flight profiles, the missiles vanished and reappeared, baffling tracking screens. By the time they crossed the North Sea, the lead missiles were just 7 minutes from England. At 4:23 a.m., British coastal radars in Suffolk showed a sudden wall of threats. 12 inbound cruise missiles spread in a wide assault line nearly 15 miles across. Base alarms at RAF Lakenheath blared as the sky lit up with searchlights and scrambling sirens. Anti-air batteries rotated frantically, still struggling for solid locks. Just 3 minutes later, the missiles screamed over farmland and highways at treetop height. Locals caught glimpses of dark, dart-like shapes flashing overhead, engines howling like ripping canvas. Shockwaves shattered barn windows in rural Cambridgeshire. Then, at 4:28 a.m., all 12 caliber missiles plunged toward the massive American airbase. Runways, fuel farms, hangars laid out in grid-like precision, now fully exposed. In seconds, Russia's brazen attack pushed Europe closer to a cataclysm no one thought would arrive in their lifetime. If you were in charge, would you order an immediate counterstrike or push for emergency peace talks? Share your pick below, and stay tuned to see what really happened. At 4:24 a.m., just seconds after coastal radars confirmed the inbound swarm, RAF Lakenheath went into lockdown. Sirens wailed across the sprawling base, red strobes flashing over parked F-35s. Pilots and ground crews sprinted for hardened shelters. Along the perimeter, 4 Patriot PAC-3 MSE batteries stood ready, each stacked with 16 interceptors, their radar dishes glowing hot with electronic returns. Almost simultaneously, 15 miles north, a British Sky Sabre site near Thetford Forest spun its giraffe radar at 60 RPM, tracking multiple caliber signatures racing in at 600 mph. In seconds, operators launched 8 KMM missiles, vertical canisters spitting fire into the night. Over the North Sea, an American E-3 Sentry AWACS barked continuous updates. Its broad dome tracked the flight paths in real time, pushing refined intercept data straight into Patriot fire control computers. Nearby, 2 F-35A Lightnings sprinted in on full afterburner, HUDs blinking with threat boxes, internal bays loaded with AM-120Ds for any leakers. At 4:26 a.m., the first line of defense struck home. 4 calibers disintegrated mid-air, torn apart by PAC-3 kinetic hits, raining fragments over quiet pastures. Moments later, 2 more fell to Sky Saber's high-speed cams, brilliant blossoms of burning wreckage marking the dawn. But 6 Calibers powered through. At 4:27 a.m., they plunged over the final ridge, only 40 seconds from impact. Base loudspeakers screamed new evacuation orders. Patriots reloaded frantically, but time ran out. At 4:28 a.m., 2 Calibers slammed into the outer fuel depot, sending a roiling fireball 700 feet into the air. A third tore through a maintenance hangar, crumpling steel like paper. The others peppered taxiways and an old storage lot, blowing out windows and hardened aircraft shelters. Miraculously, no American or British personnel were killed, a testament to rapid drills and reinforced bunkers. But 23 service members suffered shrapnel wounds and burns, several critical. 2 F-35As were left heavily damaged, their fuselages warped and scorched. Black columns of smoke rose over Suffolk as emergency crews surged onto the blazing tarmac. In operation centers across Europe, generals watched live drone feeds in grim silence. Russia's gambit had bloodied a U.S. stronghold, not destroyed it, but enough to demand an overwhelming answer. That answer would come soon, and it would change everything. You're still there, right? So let's see what America did to Russia. And if you're interested in these facts, give us a like and subscribe. Just hours after the Russian strike on RAF Lakenheath, the Pentagon authorized a devastating response. At 7:40 p.m. EST on June 29, 2025, 5 bombers thundered off U.S. runways, 3 B-2 Spirits from Missouri and 2 B-21 Raiders from California. Each carried a 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, built to smash through 200 feet of reinforced concrete and vaporize underground installations. Over the Atlantic, a ring of KC-46 Pegasus tankers performed choreographed aerial refuelings. Without them, the stealth bombers could never reach Murmansk and return. Above it all, an RQ-180 stealth drone silently mapped Russia's Kola Peninsula. Its synthetic aperture radar pierced cloud cover, pinpointing S-500 radars and command bunkers in real time. Russia's S-500 Prometei network was formidable, intercepting stealth aircraft and missiles at over 300 miles, but it relied on fixed, exposed radar stations. By 2:05 a.m. Moscow time, the bombers crossed the Norwegian Sea, invisible to most Russian scopes. E-3 Sentry and RC-135 jets loitered hundreds of miles back, intercepting confused Russian radio chatter. Murmansk operators couldn't confirm targets. By the time they did, the U.S. bombers were already overhead. At 2:17 a.m., all 5 aircraft released their ordnance from 40,000 feet. The GBU-57s, guided by GPS and inertial navigation, plunged supersonically, their hardened tips designed to survive massive kinetic impact. Seismic stations across Scandinavia registered multiple jolts. 2 penetrators smashed deep into S-500 command centers, destroying phased array radars and killing at least 48 Russian officers and technicians. Another obliterated a secure fiber hub, severing Murmansk's ties to Moscow's air defense grid. The final 2 bombs drove into underground ammo bunkers, detonating stocks of 77 N6-N1 interceptors and Iskander warheads. The resulting chain explosion sent pillars of fire over 200 feet into the air, blowing secondary debris for half a mile. Local sensors recorded a 5.1 magnitude tremor. Within minutes, Murmansk's sprawling military campus was reduced to cratered earth and burning rubble. Over 120 Russian personnel were confirmed dead in initial reports, with dozens more missing in collapsed tunnels. Flames rose from shattered bunker doors, illuminating the Arctic coastline in eerie orange. Above the chaos, the B-2s and B-21s banked west, vanishing into the polar night. Their time over Russian territory, just 14 minutes. Yet they left behind a shredded air defense network, silenced radar arrays, and a stunned Russian high command. Live infrared feeds, piped into war rooms from Moscow to Brussels, showed precisely targeted devastation. 5 clean craters where critical nodes of Russia's northern defenses once stood. It was a chilling showcase of America's integrated war machine. Stealth bombers, real-time drone intelligence, tanker support, precision, bunker busters, all executed in flawless synchronization. In a matter of hours, the Kola Peninsula's shield was broken, and with it, Moscow's aura of untouchable northern security. The next move, now under global scrutiny, would be Russia's. What do you think about this? Is the US precision strike justified? And stay tuned. How big will the Russian damage be? In the hours after the US strike on Murmansk, Russia's northern military infrastructure lay in smoking ruin. The destruction was staggering. 2 S-500 command centers obliterated, critical fiber optic hubs reduced to twisted glass and steel, and 3 major ammunition bunkers incinerated, taking with them stocks of advanced interceptors and tactical nuclear warheads. Emergency crews pulled charred bodies from collapsed tunnels. By evening, Moscow confirmed over 120 dead and 70 more missing. A gut punch to Russia's elite air defense corps. With Murmansk's radar eyes gouged out, Russia's entire northwestern sector went effectively blind. The strategic port, home to submarines and Arctic Fleet resupply, became vulnerable overnight. Fearing follow-on raids, the Russian Navy ordered all Borei and Yasen-class submarines to evacuate Murmansk and Arkhangelsk immediately. Hastily loaded with partial crews and supplies, the vessels dispersed into the Barents Sea, leaving piers eerily empty. On shore, the logistical fallout was brutal. Hundreds of trucks jammed outbound highways, ferrying munitions and mobile radar systems deeper into the Russian interior. Fuel convoys clogged narrow roads, delaying fresh shipments meant to sustain the remaining Arctic defenses. In the chaos, local commanders complained of lost communications, misrouted reinforcements, and severe gaps in anti-air coverage stretching over 250 miles of critical coastline. Meanwhile, the ripple effect struck Moscow's economy with ruthless speed. The Moscow exchange plummeted 18% in a single trading day, wiping billions off Russia's state-connected conglomerates. Citizens lined up outside major banks, withdrawing rubles in panic. International investors, already wary, accelerated capital flight. NATO seized the moment. Troop carriers and heavy armor from Germany and Poland rolled into the Baltic states under Operation Iron Shield. Norwegian F-35 squadrons began round-the-clock combat air patrols along the Arctic Circle, exploiting the hole in Russia's sensor net. In private Brussels briefings, NATO planners assessed that Russia's Murmansk defenses would take at least 6 months to rebuild, a staggering setback for Moscow's posture in the high north. Inside the Kremlin, a shaken National Security Council debated emergency responses. Some generals demanded direct missile strikes on NATO troop concentrations in Latvia and Lithuania. Others argued for covert sabotage instead, fearing open escalation to global nuclear confrontation. But one reality was undeniable. America's precision blow had not only devastated Murmansk's military backbone, it had upended Russia's entire northern strategy, forcing the Kremlin to fight blind and rethink every move with NATO, now pressing advantage on all fronts. Reeling from the devastation in Murmansk, the Kremlin moved swiftly to signal resolve. By the morning of July 1, 2025, Russia's defense ministry placed multiple Iskander brigades in Karelia and near the Finnish border on the highest readiness level. Convoys carrying nuclear-capable missiles were spotted dispersing into thick forests under heavy camouflage nets. Simultaneously, Moscow ordered strategic bomber units and submarine crews to stand by for potential retaliatory drills. In secure command bunkers outside Moscow, Russia's National Security Council authorized nationwide strategic force alert protocols, pushing its nuclear triad toward launch-on-warning posture. State television broadcast ominous footage of Topol M mobile launchers rolling through rural highways, a deliberate signal meant for both NATO and Russian citizens. The United States reacted with equal gravity. The Pentagon announced an upgrade to DEFCON 2, the highest alert since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, putting American nuclear forces just one step from wartime launch protocols. 2 additional carrier strike groups, centered on the USS Gerald R. Ford and USS Harry S. Truman, surged into the Norwegian Sea. Their decks bustled with armed FA-18s and surveillance drones, ready to project overwhelming force. Across Europe, NATO's rapid response brigades poured into fortified positions from Estonia to Romania. High-altitude surveillance drones swept the Russian border, feeding terabytes of live imagery into war rooms from Brussels to Washington. Civilian air traffic over northern Europe thinned dramatically, airports on alert for emergency shutdowns. Yet amid the razor-edge tension, cooler heads began urgent back-channel talks. Diplomatic couriers flew into Ankara and Geneva to open secret lines between Washington and Moscow. No one wanted a miscalculation that could turn a bruising regional conflict into a civilization-ending cataclysm. For all the precision weapons and real-time data, one lesson stood stark. In an age of stealth drones, bunker busters, and hypersonic threats, even superpowers could bleed badly, and the cost of misjudgment could spiral beyond control. Both sides had been reminded in the harshest terms that modern war, once unleashed, had no clean-off switch. In just 72 hours, the world had lurched from tense rivalry to the brink of global catastrophe. What began with 3 Russian submarines launching 12 stealthy Caliber missiles ended with American stealth bombers obliterating Murmansk's air defense network, killing over 100 Russian specialists and crippling Moscow's northern shield. Each step was answered with sharper steel. Russia moved tactical nuclear units to the forests of Karelia. The United States elevated to DEFCON 2 and sailed 2 carrier strike groups into the Norwegian Sea. NATO armored columns dug in from the Baltics to the Black Sea, while Russian mobile launchers crawled through dark highways under watchful drone eyes. Yet despite the firepower arrayed, it was back-channel whispers in Ankara and Geneva, not warheads, that finally cooled the spiral. Hard men in silent rooms admitted the obvious. No precision strike or high-tech shield could promise control once thresholds shattered. In the end, both superpowers learned again what past generations had. Modern war might start with targeted raids and surgical bombs, but it could all too easily slip into annihilation. The scars left on Murmansk, Lakenheath, and countless shaken families prove that even limited wars could explode into horrors no nation could ever truly afford. If you found this story interesting, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Your support will help us continue to bring you important information about the U.S. military.